Yeah, and well, that leads us with a good episode that I wanted to ask about. For many of those who are not that deeply familiar with the s- little stories behind your big story, tell them what your father told you in Adelaide, 1987, before a support race.
Yeah, yeah, it was a very difficult scenario. I mean, look, we're all humans, and we all have, most of us have a kind of environment where sometimes you get on with your parents, sometimes you don't, and you got to work through them. And you know, 3 months before the Australian Grand Prix support race in '87, where I was racing in Formula Two, and the winner of that race actually got the Australian Gold Star. And 3 months, 3 or 4 months before, I had to tell my parents that my girlfriend was pregnant, which was unexpected. And for my father, that was like an absolute no no. Bad enough having a girlfriend, because it is a selfish environment. And if you're distracted by babies or whatever and children at a young age, then he was like, well, your career's finished. And he and I didn't speak at all for 3 4 months, just not one word. And I was in America at the time doing some racing in Formula Atlantic, just a few races. Came back to the F2 race. We dusted off the car, went out, didn't qualify because we just didn't do a lap. We had electrical problems both times, both qualifying sessions. So I was dead last. I was like 35th or something on the grid. And then I ended up having tried to bridge the gap, with my dad and my mum was there, and he was wearing a Formula One pass that Bernie had given him. And I said, "Oh, you better get me one of those for when I'm in Formula One." And he just turned around to me and he said, "The days of you ever getting to Formula One are finished." And
That's harsh, right?
that's pretty harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like, I told him to F off. I walked off and I had steam coming out of my ears. I was so angry, and I turned that anger into a level of determination, desire, passion to win a race that I've never ever felt before. I jumped in the car. I was 38th on the grid, 35th. I can't remember now, but it's certainly in the mid 30s. I was 17th by lap one, and I got into the lead in a 15 lap race on the 14th lap, and I won. And it was one of those moments where you go, you know what, it was difficult when I look back, but it was such a gift there, because what it did, it taught me a massive lesson about the mindset. And I ended up doing a race I never thought was ever possible. And it was only because my emotions and my feelings and my desire and my intent, those levels changed to a level that I'd not experienced before, because the argument that I had with my father provoked all that to come. And I could have gone either way. I could have got so angry I just crashed in the first lap and that would have been it. But I was able to channel it in such a way that you become something different to what you normally are, and you get an insight into a world that you could head into, and that I was able to not always tap into, but it taught me that there's always another level. And that lesson I got out of '87 was a big one for me, and I think really helped me for my career. So I don't look back and go, that was a terrible experience. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but I learned so much out of it. It was a massive gift.
And what a way to present a business card in front of the entire Formula One paddock, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad, apparently my mate was with my father, and then obviously about halfway through the race, he's going, hang on a minute. He's looking at the stopwatch. He's looking at the leader. He's looking at me. Um, there was no TVs. They took all the TVs down for that race, which was such a shame. But the crowd was still there. which was amazing. And he ended up grabbing Ken Tyrrell and Jackie Stewart and said, "Hey, come and have a look at this." And so they saw the sort of last half of the race where I'm just mowing everyone down. I stand up on the podium, and Ken Tyrrell's up there. I think he even presented the trophy. I can't remember. I remember he was up there, and he was telling Australia, "You got to get behind David Brabham because he's got all this potential." And I mean, it just complete. And my dad was just full of smiles, and all of a sudden he was my mate again.
Nice, nice, interesting. What a day, huh?
Yeah.
And you said that it took you to another level in terms of mindset. Do you think that this also took your father to a different level in terms of understanding David, the driver?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because like I said, I hadn't, and he hadn't seen me drive like that before, and he knew that I had the talent, which is why he was so upset because I was going to become a father at an early age. That he thought that all that talent was just going to be wasted. But I turned it into motivation more than anything. And I turned that motivation, desire, and everything to, and that belief, and there was no doubt. I had zero doubt I was going to win that race, even though I couldn't even see the start flag because I was around the hairpin. But that just doubt never ever entered my head. It was, I'm winning that race and I'm coming through, and I did that. And I think he also realized that he had to get, we had to get to Europe um, the following year, which is what I did.
And was this the day, or perhaps before that or later? You were the one who's going to tell me, but that you knew you had it as a racing driver?
I knew I had more of it, I guess. Um, I think, yeah, when I never really, I knew I could drive because, when I was on the farm or, driving to my mate's place at late at night. I mean, how I'm still alive, I really don't know, but I would drive like you wouldn't do it today, but certainly back then there was no one around and you just drove flat out everywhere. And the risks you take, when I look back, I go, God, did I actually do that? But like I said, I had zero fear. And I think that on top of constantly driving every day on the farm, flat out and sideways and enjoying myself, it all helped. It all helped.